Top 10 Myths of Climate Change. With the climate crisis becoming a hot topic in mainstream media, there's a lot of confusion around what is fake and real. Myth 1. The Earth's climate has always changed. Over the course of the Earth's 4.5 billion-year history, the climate has changed a lot. But the rapid warming we're seeing now can't be explained by natural cycles of warming and cooling. The kind of changes that would normally happen over hundreds of thousands of years are happening in decades. This much faster warming corresponds with levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which have been increasing since the Industrial Revolution. So, when people talk about climate change, this is the warming of Earth's average temperature as a result of human activity, such as burning coal, oil, and gas to produce energy. Myth 2. Plants need carbon dioxide. Plants do need carbon dioxide to live. Plants and forests remove and store away huge amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere each year. But the problem is, there's only so much carbon dioxide they can absorb, and this amount is getting less, as more and more forests are cut down across the world, largely to produce our food. This is the warming of Earth's average temperature as a result of human activity, such as burning coal, oil, and gas to produce energy. Myth 3. Global warming isn't real as it's still cold. Global warming is causing the Earth's average surface temperature to increase, causing changes to our natural climate systems. These changes are making extreme weather events more likely and more severe. For example, hurricanes and storms are becoming more intense, moving slower and taking longer to die down. Myth 4. Climate change is a future problem. This is no longer an excuse not to act on climate change and push the burden onto future generations. Last year, the world's leading climate scientists warned we only have 12 years to limit global warming to a maximum of 1.5 degrees and avoid climate breakdown. We're already seeing the devastating effects of climate change on global food supplies, increasing migration, conflict, disease, and global instability, and this will only get worse if we don't act now. Man-made climate change is the biggest environmental crisis of our time. It threatens the future of the planet that we depend on for our survival, and we're the last generation that can do something about it. Myth 5. Renewable energy is just a money-making scheme. It's a commonly held belief that renewable energy is expensive, but this simply isn't true. Solar power and onshore wind are the cheapest ways of generating electricity, including nuclear, gas, and fossil fuels. The cost of renewables has fallen faster than anyone could have predicted. And yet the government are still backing dirty fossil fuels. Myth 6. Polar bear numbers are increasing. Climate change is the biggest threat faced by polar bears. The Arctic is warming roughly twice as fast as the rest of the world, causing sea ice to melt earlier and form later each year. This makes it more difficult for female polar bears to get onto land in late autumn to build their dens, and more difficult for them to get out onto the sea ice in spring to feed their cubs. Their main source of prey, seals, are also affected by climate change, as they depend on sea ice to raise their young. Polar bear populations are predicted to decline by 30% by the middle of this century. Myth 7. Renewable energy can only work when it's not cloudy or windy. Industry is developing new techniques for storing electricity and managing demand at peak times, meaning that even if the sun isn't shining or it's not blowing a gale, it's still possible to rely on renewable energy sources. Myth 8. Animals will adapt to climate change. Darwin theory is correct with adaptation partly. But some plants and animals will adapt, but not all. To survive, plants, animals, and birds confronted with climate change have two options: move or adapt. Given the speed of climate change, it's becoming impossible for many species to adapt quickly enough to keep up with their changing environment. Myth 9. Getting rid of humans will fix this. The reason behind this belief is that the planet cannot support the world's growing population. It's WWF's mission to build a world where people and nature thrive together. Using technology and planet's resource sustainably used will be the solution. What's now needed is for political and business leaders to take bold and urgent action towards using these solutions to address the climate crisis and restore nature. Myth 10. China is the only country responsible for climate change. Despite being one of the largest emitters of greenhouse gases, China is currently one of the largest investors in renewables. The increase in investment has been in response to the rapid growth of green business and the need to clean up air pollution in its major cities. Climate change is a global issue, and we all have a responsibility to step up to the climate crisis.